My name is Michael Matthews, and I'm the founder of Digital Radio Tracker. I'm here live with Industry's Most Wanted, Miss Misty herself in person, in the flesh. It's been years in the making. So glad to be here, and look forward to speaking to you and your guest.
Hey, what's going on, man? It is your girl, TampaMystic, and we are live on the Industry's Most Wanted podcast. Boom! Big Industry's Most Wanted, not the little one. Listen, I've got somebody here today that I'm so excited. This is such a long overdue. We've done it virtually. Yes. But it's long overdue for us to do this in person. Shout out to my good friend, Michael, Digital Radio Tracker. He's the one that tracks the Hype 87.3, Power 107.6, The Truth. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me, man. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, man. We've been talking about this for so long.
Yes.
It's just a blessing to finally be here. I'm just so proud of what you're doing here. It's fantastic. I mean, the studio for the station, Industry's Most Wanted. And I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I must say this is very impressive.
Thank you so much. Listen, that means a lot to me because this is something I do because I have a genuine passion for it. Some people do it because they want the clout. It's a passion for me, just like with what you do at Digital Radio Tracker. I just want to dive in because I've got so many questions that a lot of these artists and, independent radio stations need to hear. Let's just go back through the history of Digital Radio Tracker. How long has it been here? How long has Digital Radio Tracker been Digital Radio Tracker? And what made you decide to start it?
Well, I think the big thing for us, I founded Digital Radio Tracker in 2011, so we're 14 years in now. I think the biggest thing for us is we're a voice for the unheard. Our whole mission in life was about being able to give voices to, like, the Hype,
yes,
the Truth. Stations that people say, hey, you know what? There may be 100 people listening, there may be 10,000 people listening. Whatever it may be, everybody deserves a voice. We believe in inclusion and inclusiveness as far as what you're playing. A lot of music is now being broke online, and outside of us playing it and supporting it, nobody would even know who these artists are.
Absolutely.
So that was the big mission and purpose behind DRT, because for so many years, growing up in this industry, it's always been the politics. It's always been, hey, you know what? We want to give a voice to selective ones. And everybody said, well, who's picking these stations that control the charts? Who's saying what these artists should or should not be played, and who deserves a break and who shouldn't be? And so that's why we came in and we said, wait a minute, there's a lot of territories like Russia, India, South Africa, parts of Mexico that nobody in the world wanted to monitor. Nobody wanted to give them a voice at all.
Oh, wow.
And we said, look, we're going to come in and we're going to say, hey, we're going to take the sheets off the curtain, as they say, and let everybody be able to see who's really out here, what they're really playing, what's going on. People say, well, the DRT charts, well, are they like any other charts? No, these charts are open.
Yeah.
That's why you are going to see some independent, unknown artists, and you may see them in top 50, whereas other charts in the industry, they will never be there in life.
Like you said, you're giving them a voice. You have a true platform for the underdogs, as what some people call them, to be able to get some notoriety and some recognition for the hard work, because there's a lot of independent artists out here who are spending a lot of money on marketing, promotions, radio play, but they're not seeing it visually. But with Digital Radio Tracker, I get so many. I think my Digital Radio Tracker chart, the report that I post, gets more reposts than anything else that I post out there. These artists love that because they love seeing their name on there. So approximately how many stations are you guys reporting with?
Well, we're currently monitoring a little over 5,000 right now. We're looking at expanding to 7,500 hopefully within the next year or so, because that's what's been going on in the digital streaming world. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The growth has been phenomenal. I remember having so many conversations with people in the industry. Who would have thought that we would be consuming music now from a refrigerator, from smart speakers, from all these different devices, and nobody's tracking it but Digital Radio Tracker. And that's what we're excited about. Now you got all the major airlines putting internet radio on the airplanes and things, and we're right there at the forefront of it. And what's so interesting, and I recently got a call about this, you might have even heard about it, that even now Apple wants to get involved in digital streaming monitoring. And so we're on top of it, and we said, hey, wait a minute, you know what? it seems like the industry is starting to move closer to us. It's not us moving away from it. And that's what we love. It's not a competitive thing. It's about showing that there is a market, that more and more and more of the streaming world needs to have a voice. And so we love just being able to develop it.
I love that. And you're right. I seen that article come down my timeline the other day about Apple now doing radio tracking or radio reporting. And I was like, I guess that's good because there's additional outlets, but it's safe to say that I really feel like you guys are the originator to help, like we said, some of these underdog artists or some of these internet-based radio stations. So for any radio stations out there, and we'll specifically say internet-based radio stations like the Hype 87.3, for people who aren't aware, they don't know you like I know you, I can shoot you a text or pick up the phone and call you because we've built a relationship. How do they get involved in getting their radio station tracked with Digital Radio Tracker?
Well, we always say the easiest way to do it is to go on digitalradiotracker.com, sign up for a broadcaster account. You'll be contacted with additional information on how you can get your station monitored and how you need to have your station set up in terms of your API streaming and so forth. And there's a lot of outlets and things. What people are learning real quick that have internet radio stations, it's very important that you have your station listed with all of the streaming directories. There's so many streaming directories because there's an audience outside of your own website, your own widget that you may post. We've always tell people that you've got to get out there. That's how you grow your audience.
Yes.
Because obviously if you're just only streaming from your website, you're only as good as the traffic on your website.
Yes.
So at least when you have other directories such as like Online Radio Box or TuneIn and so forth, there's people don't even realize there's 50 million plus people on those sites every day looking for a new station that's playing maybe Southern hip hop or maybe playing Southern soul or maybe playing East Coast music, whatever it may be, and they're going to go in and they're going to find your station. They're going to tune in. And what we always challenge a lot of independent broadcasters is go in and look at your analytics. You will be amazed at where your listening audience is.
Yes.
Like you may think Atlanta's the great. You're based here, and Atlanta may not even be the largest audience for Industry's Most Wanted or Hype or Power. You look at your analytics and you find out that there's people in Germany and Spain.
100%.
And until I bring that up, they don't even know it. They literally think it's just their local market. We are in a global music industry now.
Yeah.
It is so important, Misty, it's so important that we illustrate that to our audience, whether it's the guests that you have, whether it's the music that you're playing, say, hey, wait a minute, we're not just a local radio station anymore that's just playing local music. We are playing music for the globe.
Yes.
And that's what we're excited about to be a part of. It's a global movement where you're taking artists that may be from the basement here in Atlanta and you're exposing their music to the world right here at this place at this time. It's unimaginable.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, we couldn't even think about
right. We couldn't
like
fathom that.
Exactly. And it's amazing. I always tell the story, the very first person that bought a Digital Radio Tracker report wasn't even here in America. It was in Australia. To this day, I'm amazed by it because I'm like, how in the world did you know about us all the way in Australia and you decide to get analytics for a report all the way in Australia?
Yeah.
And that just goes to show you how the growth is, how we're in a global society, how you need to market your music. And those that are listening right now need to really get with that and understand that it's no longer how they used to teach at these music seminars, focus on your backyard. You used to hear all that stuff, 100-mile radius, 200-mile radius, that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that marketing plan.
Sure.
But now we're in a global society. Your numbers can grow exponentially by reaching out to the globe and saying, hey, here I am, introducing your market globally, and then finding out where that support is going to come from. And what I always say, go where you love, don't make them, and try to make them love you, then go where you hate it, and all that kind of a thing, and be able to really open yourself up to that new audience.
Absolutely. And something that I really like that you guys do, I love what you do, is you give independent artists the opportunity to get a plaque, a beautiful one too, not just some, something that they put together in their garage. Like, it's a beautiful plaque.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I think that's something every artist desires to do. And just being honest, a lot of them will never make it to the Grammys and get, platinum plaques because it's very difficult. How does an artist, independent wise, what do they need to do to earn a plaque and be able to purchase one from Digital Radio Tracker?
One of the things that a lot of people always say, why did you take so long to do plaques? We've only been doing plaques now for 3 years.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why was, one, we wanted to keep the cost low. The other reason, we want to make the quality high.
Yeah.
We've heard throughout the industry, there's so many, without mentioning any names, there's so many plaques that are manufactured with lower quality framing, lower quality printing, etc., and then the cost is very high. What we wanted to do was, we wanted to make sure that the quality was superior. We use Italian wood framing. We use nothing but high quality, high resolution printing that can withstand the sun. We have a lot of plaques we've heard that fade because of where they have them in their office or studios and things. All of these were things that we thought about, and we wanted to make sure we're put together the right way first. The other thing we did, we wanted to add something different. So we came up with what we call augmented reality technology, that we were able to embed the artist's videos or a video within the plaque, which is something that no other plaque in the industry has been able to do thus far. So you can have a Spotify plaque, a RIA plaque, a Billboard plaque. I don't care how many plaques you got on your wall. There's only one plaque that has that technology, and that's a DRT. And so that was the other extension we wanted to do, because we believe that what you're creating is, you're commemorating what you've done in your music career, but you're also creating a lifetime of memories, where now you may pass your plaque down to your children's children and so forth, and say, hey, look, this is what we did as a part of our legacy, but hey, by the way, pull your phone out, scan it, and then you can then see that artist's video. And we just thought that was just an amazing to add value to what the normal plaque would already be commemorating, but be able to say, hey, with technology now, we're going to take it a step further, at the same time keeping the cost low.
Yeah.
And what we found is that so many, especially these independents, have really been embracing it, because a lot of them have realized they may never get a Billboard award, they may never get a Spotify plaque, they may never get an Apple Music plaque, but they've managed to get their hands on a DRT plaque. And all that's required is that you've charted at least 1 week on the official DRT charts. Just 1 week.
Yeah.
So even if you were at 150, you can then qualify, because we didn't want to, so many people say, well, you should only limit the plaques to only if they make it to #1 or top 10. And we said, how is that really fair?
Right.
Because for some artists, they may never even reach there.
Yeah.
But then they still may want something to represent their success, represent what they've been doing, their hard work, that they, hey, I've got something on my wall, something that to show for that hard-earned dollar that I've spent out here busting my tail, promoting my music, and so forth. And so the plaques were then born, and we've got thousands of them now going all over the world. That's what's been grateful to me. I think recently the last plaques that were just shipped was to Korea.
Oh, wow.
The K-pop industry is just growing, and here in America it's been going crazy. And a lot of the Korean labels have reached out to us and say, hey, how do we get on your charts? How do we get out there? And we started telling them, look, man, your music is loved here. Start promoting your music to digital streaming radio stations, especially getting that airplay up and support. And there's been so many now K-pop artists now that are loving it. So the DRT charts are now being exposed over there. But the reason why I bring that up, and this is what a lot of people miss, is why we say we're the voice for the unheard. Because, Misty, you can have an artist that's on the chart at the same time. Now, what did we just help your artist do? They're getting exposure in Korea.
Yes.
And everybody's looking and saying, hey, this artist here is #1 in K-pop, but hey, Misty's artist is #2 right there. You're on their wall, you're in their studios, you're in their newspapers, you're on their blogs. All of these types of things is exposure that is priceless for you.
Absolutely.
And things. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are overlooking in the industry, and what we do is we expose a lot of brands in a lot of other ways. They don't even realize who's watching Industry's Most Wanted.
That's right.
Who's listening right now. This is vitally important. That's why I tell everybody that can hear my voice right now, support Industry's Most Wanted. It's very important that we support one another financially, with our time. Hey, subscribe. Tell others to tune in. This is what it's about. This is how you build platforms.
Yes.
And that's what I believe is the most valuable thing, and that's why DRT was born. We are natural born leaders people like me and yourself,
Yeah.
we step out there and we say, no, we're going to start from the ground up.
That's right.
We're going to show people as an example that they can build their own platform. We all know about all the social media platforms, all the other things that are out here, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's good to use. But what I always tell people is, what happened you wake up tomorrow and there's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there's no this. Hell, they're talking about getting rid of TikTok. So what are we going to do?
Yep.
Now you're back, start over again. You need to find that audience. So at some point, if you haven't already, you need to really think about converting some of those people, or all of them if you can, to your own platform as you continue to build and grow your career.
I tell artists all the time, you have to hustle as if social media doesn't exist. Because oftentimes the younger generation relies solely on social media. And like you said, what if they shut that platform down?
Exactly.
Chances are Instagram will never go away. However, we just don't know. They should have their own website. They need to be investing in and that's the other thing too, with what you guys do, the pricing is so fair. So fair. I'm like, why would anybody not want to be involved?
And that's really the whole purpose and plan, is we wanted to make analytics affordable.
Yes.
We wanted to be able to give exposure and value to what these independent artists especially are doing, because we know a lot of them are on budgets. A lot of them are just trying to become stars. They're trying to get their music heard. They're trying to get the exposure that they feel they deserve. And that's one of the things that we came in with. We said, we want to help. How can we help level the playing field?
Yeah.
How can we be able to open doors for maybe the unheard, or whether it's a small independent broadcaster that no one's heard of, or maybe it's a new and developing artist that, hey, they really don't have the big budgets to get on terrestrial FM or to get out there and really expose their music. Hey, but maybe they're creating a buzz online.
Yes.
You know, there has to be other ways, because what we've done is we've all become so dependent, like you said, on these social media and these types of things. And we sit back, and personally, I feel like it's created a lot of laziness. A lot of people say, well, you know what? We don't have to get out here and work anymore. We don't have to print any flyers anymore. We can just sit here and post. I can just sit back on my couch, play PlayStation all day, and post in between, all this kind of stuff. And they think they're going to be stars. The reality is, nothing comes without the hard work. There is no skipping it.
That is facts. We can't skip the struggle. And like I always say, you got to hustle as if social media does not exist. Still getting out there and meeting people, networking, shaking hands and kissing babies, as they say. That will never go away. That guerrilla marketing, putting posters out, putting flyers out. How many plaques, I don't know if you know the exact number, since you started issuing plaques, how many have you sent out?
Well, right now we're at probably at least a couple thousand now.
Yeah, that's great.
It's been 3 years, but again, the key for us is that it's been out all over the world. There's plaques in India, plaques in Korea, plaques in United Kingdom, plaques in Australia. I mean, and probably people are taking them from here in America all over the place.
Yeah.
We don't know. There's plaques in radio stations, in studios, in offices, in bedrooms. And one of the things that we've seen over the years that's been just amazing for us to see is that there's been a lot of artists that have broken through, that have gotten major record deals and things, and nobody knew who these artists were, but they were on the DRT charts when they started. Like, you take a Carson Luters who signed to Def Jam. He's had 6 singles on the DRT charts before anybody even knew who he was. Now he's got like 3-4 million followers on Instagram. Career is just growing. They've already dubbed him like the next Justin Bieber. There's so many different artists. You've got Jamie Ray from here in Atlanta. His record went to #1 on the DRT charts. 16, he's now signed to Epic Records.
Wow.
And his career has been just booming and growing. So it's just, the stories just go on and on, that is gratifying for us, because we know if it wasn't for the platform that we put together, a lot of these artists wouldn't even have gotten any exposure.
Yes.
They've never been on any charts. They've never had any kind of, as they say, resume as they're building on their way up. And that's what we love. It's not about being the top tier brand. It's about being a part of the journey, the story. And for us, that's what we love. They can say, hey, you guys are the bottom of the totem. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
We're here because without that stepping stone, you're not going to be able to just jump to the next one. So you'll fall in, as they say. And that's what we're excited about. We're not necessarily trying to put anybody out of business. We're not trying to necessarily be number one in the marketplace. Yes, currently DRT is the number 2 monitoring company in the United States, which I'm thankful, and it's a blessing. And that's literally because we've hung around long. You know, we lost our good friends at Nielsen BDS 2 years ago. You know, so now it's just media-based and DRT. Well, that's literally what happens, and that's what your listeners need to understand. These artists and things out here, sometimes it's not necessarily about being the best. It's about being consistent.
Yes.
It's about sticking around. You'd be surprised how many people thought we were going to be out of business in the first year or two, and they doubted us. Oh, you won't be around. We said, you know what? We may not have all the tools that we need, but we're smart, and we're going to stay in the grind. We know our lane, we know our audience, and we're going to stay focused on that. A lot of times it's when you step out of your lane and you say, okay, hey, I'm going to go after this, or I'm going to go after that, and you don't really have your ducks in a row, you'll trip, or what I call follow the next man. You make his mistakes as well as your own, but you pay for both. And so our philosophy is, no, we're going to stay in our lane. We're going to be true to us and do what we do. And our audience, we're not worried about what the competition does. We're not worried about, like I say, Apple want to come in and do some things. This company wants to come in and do some things. There's enough room for everybody.
Yes.
What it's about building your platform. It's about adding value to your audience. And if you stick with that formula, you too can be successful.
That is absolute facts, because when Industry's Most Wanted was established, nobody 12, 13 years ago was really podcasting the way they are now. And I see them popping up daily. And that, to me, I'm like, that's great. You know, I'm just glad I was kind of on the forefront, just like Digital Radio Tracker. So all these other ones coming along, some of them may do a great job, but we have that longevity.
That's right.
And that's almost unheard of these days.
And that's what it's about. It's about building, like you said earlier, quality relationships.
Yes.
You don't have to know millions and millions of people. You just got to know the right people.
Right.
And that's how we built our brand and what we're doing too strategically. It was funny because I'm looking back here and I'm seeing Grind Report, and I'm saying, and you know what's coming to my mind? It was our initial press story was built, and thank you, was built off of relationships and reaching out to people that we knew that had publications.
Yes.
And saying, hey, look, how can we work together? Let's get the word out about Digital Radio Tracker and what we're doing. And it was just a blessing, because in that earlier part, and this was a few years ago, I remember clearly, you know, we did like everybody else. You go out and you hire the PR firms and you do this, you do that, and you think, okay, these are all the wonderful things you got to do. And then we found out, no, we got to get back to the grind.
Yeah.
We had to get on the phones and reach out to people that we know in our relationships and say, hey, wait a minute, how can we work together? How can we support one another in what we're doing to be able to perpetuate the word and the vision of what we're trying to portray?
Yes.
And I love it. I love that story. I mean, to this day, we're all still promoting those magazines and things, because I looked up, and I still today don't even believe it, but we've been featured on 43 magazine covers.
Wow.
43, and that was an internal PR campaign, and I publicly say that because I want to encourage your listeners that are out here trying to be artists, trying to build their record labels, trying to build their studios, whatever it is that they have, to understand that sometimes you just got to put the grind in yourself, and you'll be surprised at the blessing. You'll be surprised at how many people are willing to help you and work with you, just literally picking up the phone and asking.
That's right.
And I remember when I was doing that, I didn't even know but a handful of people personally. And then all of a sudden I started getting calls. Hey, you want to be on our cover? You want to do this? We want to do a story on you. There was one magazine here in Atlanta. They did a 10-page spread.
Wow.
Didn't charge a dime, nothing.
That's
They
amazing.
just heard about what we were doing and wanted to be a part of it. And that's what I want to encourage your listeners about. Is sometimes you just have to put your hand to work and let God get in it, and it'll go from there. And you'll be amazed at how much the blessings will just flow. I'd have never thought. 20 years ago, I was managing artists, and I was running my marketing company and promoting music. I never would thought I'd be involved in a broadcasting company.
Yeah.
I didn't think, but that's how God works in mysterious ways. That sometimes He'll put you in a different place, a different space. Because actually, when DRT started, it was another business associate of mine that was actually supposed to do a monitoring company, and she said, "You know what? This is too much work. It's going to cost too much. I don't want to do it." She said, "You know what, Mike? You can take a crack at it." Because I was sitting in the back seat, and I said, "Well, you know what? maybe I should.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone and I publicly tell the story. I started Digital Radio Tracker with $5,000. It's now a multi-million-dollar company. It's grown in 14 years. The value has just exceeded beyond my personal expectation. We're reaching people all over the world. And here it was, an idea that I wasn't even going to do. You know, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be making a living from digital streaming radio, internet radio.
Yeah.
Just like you are.
Absolutely.
20 years ago, you couldn't even imagine that Industry's Most Wanted would be your job.
That's
would
right.
Be what you do. And it's what you love to do and what you're passionate about. And that's why I'm here, because I love supporting others that are like-minded, that have the vision that I have. We don't have to do the same thing. We're not competitors, but we have the same passion for what we're doing. And we say, how can we work together and help perpetuate each other's movements? And I believe that's when God gets in it. That's when it's truly going to be successful. That's when the stars are going to line up. It's everybody's got to get off this attitude, well, I don't need you and I can do this on my own and I can do that. And we've all seen it in this music industry, especially this independent industry. And we say there's thousands and thousands and thousands of independents, but there's only a handful of successful ones. Why is that? And that's where the angle that I come from, because this is a game we all love.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a successful Grind Report magazine, successful podcast like Industry's Most Wanted, successful radio station like Hype. It's collectively we're stronger.
Yes.
And it's when we can get people to realize that's what it's about. That's why I plead with the listeners here. Please continue to support Grind Report and Industry's Most Wanted and Hype, whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's promotional support, advertising support, whatever it may be, you got to do it. Do it just because.
Yes.
Because it's a push and pull industry, and the more we support one another is the more we're going to see our own careers grow. And that's what I've seen happen for myself. It's been amazing.
Man, absolutely. And I have to say, and I want to say it to you face to face, that I really feel like with the Hype 87.3 and Power 107.6, we would not have been as successful as quickly without Digital Radio Tracker. Digital Radio Tracker really solidifies our stations because we have something that comes in print form that we can post to show that their song is actually playing. How many times did it get played? It'll display their label if they have one on there. So, you know, we're thankful for DRT, Digital Radio Tracker, because you guys help solidify what we do. And I really feel like it helped catapult what we do because it really solidifies us as a legitimate radio station.
Thank you so much.
And I think, of course, and I think every station out there, if they're not reporting with you, needs to get on board because it's going to help take them to that, not just the next level, but a next couple levels of where they need to be. So we're absolutely humbly grateful for what you do. I do have a question. If there's any independent artists out there, maybe they don't have a lot of resources, but they're interested in charting so they can get these plaques. Do you guys at DRT do any type of consulting to say, hey, here's how you can get your song on multiple radio stations and kind of give them, because you put me on to, there's a platform out there that where they can get on multiple stations. Is that something that you do with artists?
Yes, there's a lot of times people will reach out and they say, hey, who are some of the top promotion guys that use your services and things like that can help me secure airplay and things like that. And we recommend, you know, the Radio Airplay Pros and the Hail Promos and the, you know, there's a lot of guys out here that have really come up in the game along the way. And I said, hey, wait a minute, you know what? We've got relationships with DJs and with programmers and things, and we're able to help these independents secure airplay. But one of the things that I always say beyond that is it's very, very different for the independent artists coming up and that hear me right now. Digital streaming radio is wide open. What they don't realize, and I'll say it in this public forum, is that there's no such thing as payola with digital streaming radio, but I'm going to explain why. And what that is people get scared and they say, when they see a station and they say, you know, we're accepting sponsorships or we're accepting X amount of dollars for X amount of spins and these types of marketing campaigns, that's completely legal. That's completely allowed at digital streaming radio.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you why. So many people get it confused with that term payola when it comes to terrestrial FM. And that's because it's regulated by the United States government, the FCC. There's certain regulations. They cannot receive money in exchange for airplay. Whereas in digital streaming radio, it's global. We were talking about this earlier. It's heard all over the world. So think about that for a minute. China cannot regulate what U.S. does. U.S. cannot regulate what Germany does. Spain cannot regulate what Russia does. So that's just the layman's term explanation. You don't have to be scared to support hype. You don't have to be scared to support power. You don't. This is what it is. You need to support these smaller broadcasters. They depend on your support.
Yes.
And that's how they can keep their doors open and continue to grow and expand their audience. So don't be afraid when you see those types of things, promotions and marketing ideas and concepts with these stations. Support them. So think about that for a minute. You may be able to go and it's way less cheaper than going to the terrestrial station down the street, or it's going to charge you hundreds of dollars for just an advertising spot.
Yes.
And that's overnight burials. And we're not talking about prime time after the club either.
Right.
So all of that, that you want to keep in mind that, it's perfectly legal. It's okay. So these independent artists, they need to. You will be surprised at the amount of independent broadcasters and internet radio that will play your music just literally because it's good.
Yes.
Or what we say is get in the door. If it's great, they're going to play it even more anyway.
Absolutely.
So, and that's how these good songs are being able to get exposed. How we can prove this is, I said this about 10 years ago, and when a lot of people were still saying, nobody's listening to those online stations, nobody cares. I said, okay, that's fine. Nobody cares. Think about it like this. If you got 100 new people hearing your music every week, you will grow your fan base.
Yes.
No matter what. Nobody can stop that momentum in numbers. And how we've proven this time and time again is over the years, now you're finding the more successful artists, I'll say the names, the Drakes, the Cardi B's,
Yep.
they're actually launching music online now. And people are saying, wait a minute, I heard it on the terrestrial. No, you're hearing it on the terrestrial station late.
Yes.
All of these online stations have been playing their albums and things. A lot of them are debuting albums online before even major radio gets it, or whatever, or major radio. Obviously, they can't play Drake all day long or Cash Money Records all day long, so they have to focus on just that one single.
Yes.
Whereas you can play the whole album. You might find another cut on that album that, hey, this is what my listeners are enjoying. And you start playing and supporting that. So you have independent broadcasters have the freedom. They have the ability to play what they want to play. They don't have the politics. They don't have the programming oversight that a lot of the terrestrial stations have that limit what they can do.
Yes.
So think about what I'm saying. All the independent artists and labels that are listening, do not overlook digital streaming radio. It can be your breakthrough. It can be your pathway to success that's unimaginable because, again, they focus globally where terrestrial radio focuses locally. So think about that.
Absolutely. And it's to touch on that a little bit, it's ironic because me and Shaw Saifa, with the power, we get a lot of artists, and I'm about to expose some of you guys. I ain't going to say your name. They'll come through and hit our DM. Mind you, this is an artist who has 150 followers on Instagram, so lets me know they're not really hustling. They'll ask us, well, how many people listen to your station? My response every time is, well, how many people can you bring to listen?
There you go.
Because it shouldn't be my complete responsibility to get people to tune in to listen to your song. How many of your fans and friends are going to tune in and support our station and support the song? We get that. And 9 times out of 10, when I ask them, well, how many people can you bring to tune in? It's crickets after that. They don't respond because they know that they don't have a fan base like that,
That's right.
And then they wonder why they have to pay because nobody knows you. We're actually helping you to give you exposure on our platform. I do a lot of interviews on the Hype. During that time, that's our highest listen time is because people are tuning in to listen to them interviews. But what do we do as soon as that interview's done? We drop an independent song that somebody could catch and be like, oh, that's a dope record. Because it does happen. I get people who will be tuned into the station and they'll be like, man, I love that song. I've never heard it before. So they truly are getting discovered on digital radio, on streaming, like internet-based radios and things like that. With Digital Radio Tracker, you guys track all forms of radio, correct?
And that's one of the things that when we designed it, and it's great because we all have a radio promotion background, we thought about it very differently. We said, wait a minute. What everybody else is doing in the monitoring world is they're tracking songs.
Yeah.
We decided to flip that. What we do at Digital Radio Tracker is we track the stations and all the songs that the station plays. So therefore, you can have a song you just created last night, debut it on the Hype today, and bam, it's going to have a DRT file automatically in pocket. So one of the things that we did was we followed the model of like the credit bureaus. When the first time you apply for credit, you then have a credit file created, and then everything that you do credit-wise gets added to that afterwards. We did the same concept. Whereas all the other monitoring companies, what they do is they do what's called like a fingerprinting technology. It's almost like a DNA. Your song is assigned a number. Every time that number comes across, it adds an airplay detection and so forth. Well, think about this. What if they don't know the song exists?
Right.
What if that song was never sent in for encoding? Well, now there's a blank space at that station in that gap that's being monitored. So we thought about all those things. We said, wait a minute, there's a lot of good songs that are being played that are being missed.
Yes.
That those are royalties that's not being paid. That's analytics that they don't have to be able to book shows, set up interviews, be able to perpetuate their career. So we said the only way to solve that is we're going to track the stations and then all the songs that the stations play. So that's the big difference, because everybody always asks that question. Well, what's the difference between DRT and other monitoring companies? Well, that's fundamentally the difference right there.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, what we do that's so different is we also track the versions of the songs. You have screwed and chopped versions. You've got remix versions.
Yeah.
You've got all these other versions where all the other monitoring companies, they combined all of that on one analytic report. So now you just see the artist and you see the song title, and you really don't know, well, man, I paid X amount of dollars to have this feature. You don't even know if anybody's playing the feature version. And if it was really economically worth it.
Right.
But with DRT, you can get that comprehensive report and be able to see, okay, this version has the feature on it, this version doesn't. More stations are playing the one with the feature, so maybe that was a good deal. Maybe we need to do a video. Other things you got to think about the importance of analytics and what actually it's really doing for you in the long run. So these are things that we've added value, or we've thought about ahead of time to say, how can we help these independents especially grow and go? Because just like on being on the DRT charts, we said, well, you know what we're going to do? Unlike a lot of other charts, they just have the listing. We said, no, we're going to become a discovery platform. We're going to add your Apple Music, your Spotify, to, links to it. So now you like that single, or you're now seeing that single on the chart. You click on it, now you can hear the artist, what else they have.
That's awesome.
So we're also helping impact your streaming numbers. I don't know too many other charts out there doing that.
None of them to my knowledge.
There you go. Exactly. So we said, well, wait a minute. You know, we're literally, but we're not your Spotify marketing team. We're not, but we're exposing you, because you'll be surprised. We get calls from A&R reps. We get calls from label presidents, major labels, distributors all the time. And they're saying, hey, what's happening? Who's this artist? They saw it on the charts. Who's this artist? Can you get us in touch with this label? All of these, you'll be surprised who's behind closed doors asking you. You guys here probably get calls and say, man, what's the hottest artist in Atlanta? What's bubbling here?
Yes.
Who's underrated? What's this? So make sure you guys listening that Misty's your friend, because when she gets these calls, they're going to ask her, well, what's the top 3 artists, underground artists here in Atlanta? If you can't round them, if your name is not one of them, you know, it could be a missed opportunity.
Yes.
So that's why it's important, like I say again, to support one another, to make sure that if you are that artist, you need to be known in the community that's going to get these types of calls. And you'll be surprised. People say, well, are you going to mention my name? Why should we?
Right.
If you haven't been supporting our platforms, if you haven't been involved, we haven't seen you working. Like you mentioned earlier, that person only has 155 followers on Instagram. But I'll say this. If their music was incredible, even though they only have 155 followers, you might just mention their name and say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? They're now getting started. So it's not about having the millions of followers. They're now getting started, and we discovered them.
Yes.
This is a diamond in the rough. This is an artist that you need to pay attention to and things, because there's so many artists that we help launch their careers, like the Cashing Out, Jamie Ray, all these different, when nobody knew who they were, and then they wind up becoming stars and things in the long term.
Yes.
But in the short term, everybody has to start somewhere. So that's why we say it's very, very powerful. You never know who's listening. You never know who's asking behind closed doors. Don't underestimate the power of this independent music industry. It's remarkable.
Absolutely. Listen, I appreciate you coming and dropping all these gems on us. I wish we had like 5 hours that we could just talk, because there's so much. And I wouldn't mind, again, us doing what we did before, getting on Instagram Live and doing that. You know, I would love to do that, you know, once you're back home and settled. That would be amazing. For people who are interested in following everything that DRT is doing, where can they follow you on all your platforms?
At Digital Radio Tracker. You know, the website's digitalradiotracker.com. We encourage everyone to go in and sign up for a free DRT account. Even if you never get a report, even if you never get any airplay, sign up anyway. That way you can get on our email list. We can, you know, offer you different promotions, different things that are going on in the industry, just information that you just need to stay connected. Because for us, it's about building a community.
Yeah.
That's what we're really doing here, is we're building an independent community and saying, hey, we're here to help one another, network, and so forth. So definitely sign up for a free account at digitalradiotracker.com.
Awesome. Absolutely. I know throughout your journey in DRT, and maybe even before, there's a lot of people who love you, support you. Anybody that you just want to give some thanks to for really supporting your journey?
Well, ultimately, I want to thank, you know, of course, everybody always thanks God and so forth. But I want to thank all of my fellow associates that we've come up in this industry together. I mean, you know, there's yourself, there's Wendy Day, there's Bigger Rankins. There's so many of us that have known each other for years and years and years. And I just love the fact that even though we've all been, I mean, me and Wendy going on 31 years.
I love her.
It's been just a fantastic journey, because we're all in our own spaces. And what I love about it is that we've all stuck together.
Yes.
We can all pick up the phone and call one another and say, hey, you know what? I got this for you. I got that for you. Let me turn you on to a client, or, you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And that's what people don't realize, that all of us, we talk behind closed doors. We're on these phones and we're communicating about the changes in the industry. How do we see it? What's next? What's not? A lot of people don't realize that many people in the music industry at all levels, that's what they do. There's meetings that happen off an island. This is not just some TV stuff, that they talk about the industry, what's next.
Yes.
You know, what's the next wave of music, you know, whatever it may be. And that's what we also do in the independent community as well, is we're all talking amongst ourselves. What's it going to be next? Is it the podcasting movement?
Yep.
Is it this? Is it that? And what's really going on? We all talk about, well, where the resources going? Where are the changes going? So I want to thank all of my peers that are still around, and those that may not be around anymore, that have said, hey, you know what? We've left our part, our legacy in this music game that we all love.
Yes.
And we've all contributed, and that's ultimately what it's about. That's what Digital Radio Tracker is about for me personally. It's about leaving my mark, my legacy in this industry, and I love. And I always say, if God forbid that I pass away tomorrow, I can say, you know what, I may have this box, but it's a big box.
Yes.
We've touched a lot of lives. We've been able to lay a strong foundation that can continue to live on beyond us. And ultimately, that's what it's about.
Absolutely. I have one last question for you. Where are we?
Industries
Most Wanted. Digital Radio Tracker is in the building. What makes DRT the industry's most wanted?
Well, I think the industry's most wanted, the reason why DRT is the industry most wanted is because we're the people's brand.
Yeah.
You know, we are for the people, we're about the people, and we are the people. And I think ultimately that's what it's about. It's working with awesome people like Industry's Most Wanted and yourself, Misty, and being able to perpetuate each other's platform and be able to help people and giving back to this industry that we all love. So that, to me, is Industry's Most Wanted.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. You made my day.
Oh. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We up out of here, you guys.